Large crowds have gathered in the Iranian capital, Tehran, for the funeral of the military commander killed in a US attack on Friday. Qasem Soleimani was assassinated in neighboring Iraq on the orders of President Trump. Soleimani was one of the most powerful figures in Iran. He directed operations in the Middle East, and his killing marks a major escalation in tensions between Washington and Tehran, with wider implications for the entire region. Iran's allies in the Middle East include Iraq, and General Soleimani had influence over a number of militias who are operating there. But concerns about Iran's growing influence was also one of the main drivers of the mass protests in Iraq last year. Our Middle East editor, Jeremy Bowen, is in Baghdad tonight with the latest. We can join him now.
Thanks very much, Hugh. And there's a bit of a mystery and confusion here tonight. First of all, a leaked letter from the Americans seemingly suggesting that they were planning to move their troops out, perhaps by helicopter. At the same time, a lot of unusual helicopter activity in the skies above me. The Americans say it was a draft and it's not happening. For supporters of the assassinated general, though, this was a tumultuous day.
Tehran's broad avenues were jammed with mourners, estimated in millions. Not all Iranians are this distressed about the death of the leadership's hardest man. General Qasem Soleimani was a dominant force in a regime that shot dead hundreds of protesters on Iran's streets at the end of 2019. His supporters were happy that he spent vast amounts of the Islamic Republic's money building up alliances and militias in Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq and Syria. Other Iranians thought it a high price to pay as US sanctions bit into their lives. But Iran's hardline elite is badly rattled by the assassination. Ayatollah Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, wept as he prayed for his right-hand man. Soleimani was the keystone of his regime's security. The dead general's daughter Zainab delivered a fiery oration demanding revenge for the father she called a martyr.
The families of American soldiers in the Middle East who have witnessed America's cruel wars in Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Afghanistan, Yemen and Palestine will spend their days waiting for the death of their children.
Here in Baghdad, Soleimani, in death, stood like a brother with the Iraqi militia leader Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, killed with him by the Americans. Behind them, Iranian missiles speed to unknown targets. This memorial was organized by the so-called Popular Mobilization Forces, militias mostly trained and armed by Soleimani's operation, now integrated into the Iraqi army. President Trump was there in image. They tried going toe-to-toe with his threats. This pro-Iranian MP, Uday Awad, said it would be good if Trump sent more troops so they could send more coffins back to America. Iraq's top Shia politicians, close allies of Tehran, paid their respects, including Nouri al-Maliki, once America's choice for prime minister. The older men sat and dreamt of revenge.
There's a lot of quiet anger here and a strong desire to get even, to get revenge. The question is what these Iraqis and also, of course, the leaders of Iran do next. And two countries' names are mentioned most here, and their flags are down there on the street: the United States and Israel.
At the mosque, the desire for revenge was everywhere, in faces, chants, and conversation. This evening, back in Iran, in the holy city of Qom, Qasem Soleimani's coffin was paraded again. Among the guardians of his memory are the most powerful men in Iran and Iraq. Their anger, and that of their supporters, will not dissipate easily.
Let's go back to Jeremy live in Baghdad tonight. And given what you were saying a little earlier, Jeremy, what is your sense there of America's intentions in Iraq and the region in the weeks and months ahead?
Well, in terms of this supposed possible troop withdrawal, the Iraqi parliament has said they've got to get out. President Trump has said they're not going to go because they've invested so much money here unless they're reimbursed. And then there's this mysterious letter draft that was leaked to a news agency, and the Americans are saying that it didn't mean that they were about to go. So it does, though, I think, suggest that there is some kind of talking going on, perhaps. They certainly have said, they've admitted that they're moving, redeploying troops for force protection reasons, maybe even taking a few out of the country. In the wider sense of where they are, I think the question now really is a much bigger one about just where the anger expressed on the streets goes and in the government of Iran, and how, if that is expressed in terms of a deed, the Americans respond. The Americans have said, Mr. Trump has said very forcibly, that it would be a crushing response, and he is gambling that that will be enough to intimidate them into not doing a great deal. Well, we can't read the future, but we'll see.
Jeremy, thanks very much again. Jeremy Bowen there for us in Baghdad tonight. So what's the UK government saying about all of this? Let's join Laura Kuenssberg, our political editor at Westminster. Foreign Secretary was talking about this earlier, Laura. What's your sense of the government's response and how it thinks that response should be coordinated?
Well, Hugh, in terms of this letter that's emerged tonight, the messages here at Westminster is they don't believe this is a sign of a sudden dramatic change from the US. There is no imminent departure of Western forces, and the UK government have been quite clear. They want the 400 or so UK troops who are currently helping fend off so-called Islamic State or Daesh in Iraq to stay. They've been completely clear about that. But beyond that, it comes down to two Ds from number 10, diplomacy and what they call de-escalation. In other words, a message they've been saying for the last few days, although we've yet to hear directly from the Prime Minister, please, let's try to keep this calm. But it's clearly an extremely volatile and unpredictable situation. The Foreign Secretary is off on his travels tomorrow to try to put that message to other leaders. And we'll hear in Parliament, we expect, also from the Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace. But with troops on the ground still in Iraq, the UK is certainly not just a spectator in all of this. But in trying to balance that awkward triangle of an unpredictable US president, allies in Europe, and then partners and allies in the Middle East as well, this is a very difficult balancing act for the British government. Not bystanders, but not decision makers either.
Laura, many thanks again. Laura Kuenssberg there for us at Westminster.